On Facebook. Hey, Facebook friends. I'm Love Coach Scott Catamas, and this is,
Trish Wright.
and it's just the two of us tonight on Straight Talk, although we might invite a guest or two into the webinar room with us, depending on who kind of jumps into the Zoom room with us. So definitely consider coming into the Zoom room, and I'll send out the Zoom room number in a moment. We are talking about intimacy. Into me see, and how we want it, and then we get it, and then we freak out. It's like, I want it. Oh, okay, I got it. That's great. Okay, great. And then I was like, I need space. Like, sound familiar?
Yeah, totally. I mean,
So,
if for anybody else out there watching, does it sound familiar?
and we're joking about it, but it's a serious thing. It's like, look, the greatest moments of my life absolutely are moments of deep intimacy, just no doubt. And probably the greatest emotional pain in my life is when my wife died, or when somebody that I really loved, the relationship changed or ended. And so it's like it is really significant. It's kind of when I'm single right now, and it's like the longest I've ever been single as an adult. And I don't like it. I mean, I self-source and I'm busy and I've got a full life, but I miss physical touch. I miss that quality I miss having a girlfriend to text once or twice a day, even if we're not seeing each other, you know? I miss having somebody say, Scott, I watched your show. I thought it was awesome. So, you know,
Now you're just teasing me. I want to know, you just said everything back to me that I just said to him.
Oh, really?
I love you so much.
So what comes up for you as an initial thought about intimacy, Trish?
The thing that I'm thinking about a lot is that we're almost 11 months into this quarantine, into the pandemic. Some of us have stricter protocols, some of us have more open protocols, and intimacy, not only just in romantic relationships, but intimacy in our physical relationships are really struggling. Like it's not as deep in some places, because you can only, I can't come over to your house and scratch your head. And I
Right.
can't, like, like there's fear about hugging people or getting in contact or being without your mask, taking a photo, of each other or yourselves together. So it's like, when I think about intimacy, I'm thinking about, God, I can only imagine how many people in the world right now who are both in relationship and out of relationship, or alone or with other people, that are craving intimacy. And for me, what I mean by intimacy is a place where vulnerability and authenticity meets the place, like meets another person. So when I get to be vulnerable with you, and I get to be authentic, that's where intimacy is created for me. I don't know if that's like it for everybody else, but I just don't think that I'm the only one. Right?
Yeah, I think it's important for us to recognize that there's sexual intimacy, but there's also emotional intimacy, and definitely, especially as we get older, sexual intimacy without emotional intimacy is not what most people are craving. And of course, we can have emotional intimacy with friends, platonic friends, with family members, and so. The other thing I want to just riff on for a moment that you brought up is it's hard both ways. The friends that I know that are single, I mean, some of them are really struggling because so many of our ways of connecting, because of COVID, no church, no festivals, no conferences, no workshops, no dances, no sporting events. I mean, this is for here in California, not even bars, clubs, and restaurants, right? So there's so little opportunity for a lot of people to connect in the ways that they used to. And then people that are in relationships, they're like home with that person all the time. And so people that are single or lonely, People that are in relationship are often spending more time with their partner than they really want to. And as coaches, I'm certainly getting a lot of that. And then people that have children trying to homeschool the kids, and it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. You're muted, Trish.
My whole, like all of the clients that I'm seeing right now are singles. That's who, and they're really like, hey, I don't even know how to get my intimacy needs met. And I'm in relationship, and sometimes I don't know how to get my intimacy needs met. I'm like, oh shit, like how I would do it before looked like this, but now there's a lot of things that you got to think about. You have to think about COVID protocols, and you have to think about what is safe for everyone. I mean, let's get real. I'm literally like almost the last on the list to get a vaccine. So what does that look like for me to visit my friends, my older friends, and what does that look like for me to be in community? So the craving to be intimate is so human. It's so personal and human to be connected, intertwined in your tribe.
Mm.
You know, when I was in massage school many years ago, there's this beautiful article about twins who were dying. Like one was dying. There was a healthy twin and an unhealthy twin. And the one that was ill was passing. And they were like, you know, the nurses there were really intelligent, emotionally intelligent in this place. And they say that a lot of twins have a connection that if you don't put the twins back together so that the twin who's surviving will understand in its body when the other twin passes. Well, what happened is that when they put the babies together, they started rhythming their heartbeat, which is really natural for humans, and rhythming their breath together, and that ill twin revived and pulled through.
Wow.
So the physical intimacy, like, I mean, it's so natural to crave physical intimacy. It's so natural to crave that vulnerable, sweet, really sensitive spot of human emotion and human like sharing, right? Not just sexual. Like, I mean, how often do I just crave someone's loving time and attention? And I know that you do as well.
Yeah.
We all crave just having someone sit down and have a cup of tea with us and hear our truth, or hear our and acknowledge our pain, or be acknowledged for our pain. You know what I mean? It's just like that craving to be seen is so seen and connected is so natural. It's so sweet.
We're pack animals, we need tribe. And one of the things that I've noticed as I've gotten older is when I was younger, I and most of my peers were looking for the soulmate, looking for the twin flame, looking for the other half, the other lover. But now it's more people are looking for their tribe, looking for their community, looking for their, and I'm just really noticing that. And it's just so part of our nature. We are tribal creatures, and our ancestry, we were living in tribes for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. So it's very much in our ancestral DNA and ancestral memory, right? And now it's just like all kind of split, and now take that most of our connection. I mean, for me, almost all my connection is by computer. Now I'm connecting with people all day long as a coach with my clients, or with people that I work with, or on my online show. So I'm not lacking in connection, but it's all digital, right? So that's why I noticed that for me, it's physical touch. I really miss human physical touch. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Those little fingers.
I'm totally there with you. I have this tendency that after a few days of not getting physical touch, I start just kind of tripping the fuck out.
Yeah.
I start being like, I don't even know, like my body's just dysregulated, and I can just tell that my nervous system needs a hug. And for all of you out there, I'd love to hear the ways that you're craving intimacy and the ways that you're getting your intimacy needs met. Because
Yeah.
I'm for real, like, I mean, just out to sheer curiosity of how you all are doing it in the world, because I think it's really important to share ideas too. because as much as I can do, you know, my light touch morning practice, and as much as man, I do have to say the thing that I'm getting my needs met from is sleeping on the couch right now. And he's like, that poor thing is like, I'm like holding him all the time. The poor cat is like, "Ah." I like pick him up and I'm petting him like, oh, is it Elmira? Where she's like, I'm gonna love you and squeeze. That poor thing is just like, and that's just to support the connection with a creature that I can feel its heartbeat, right?
Yeah.
It's on a very basic, not logical, human animal level.
You know, a couple of things. First of all, I want to acknowledge people that are with us, Krishna and Doctress Newtopia in our Zoom room. So perhaps you'll come on and share some thoughts. Both of you are welcome. Let me know in the comments in the chat if you want to join us. I want to say hi to your friend Ashley, who's watching. And thank you, Joyce, for sharing the video. And just a reminder, whether you're watching live or watching the replay, and most of the people who watch Straight Talk watch the replay, share it out. This is how Trisha and I meet new friends, right? We're doing a show on intimacy, so we want to meet your friends. So share this out if you find this valuable. And I also want to I'll say it over here. I put into the Zoom, into my chat, my comments on Facebook, the Zoom room number. So if anybody wants to come to the Zoom room, come on in. It's Zoom room number 9800684259. I'll say it one more time if you want to write it down. 9800684259 is the Zoom room.
So what we wanted to cover tonight, I just want to like pull it back a little bit, is this place of intimacy, cravings, thresholds, and hangovers. And I think that, gosh, there's just so many things that I want to say about it. So our community, our whole society, I'm gonna drop it in. Our whole society believes that having a craving for, or we're taught to understand a craving for intimacy as being needy. That instead of being able to ask for what we want, we're terrified to share it, or we're taught to not ask because that looks bad. And then, you know, finally, when our human beings are like, oh my gosh, we have someone to share time and share our lives and share our wins and our losses with, we get really excited, right? We get really like, yay, I got this person who wants to be my friend and we're gonna like build cool things together. It's like, it's totally, you know, in a young childhood moment, we're like, gonna go build the sandbox castle. And then you get this moment where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna show up. I'm gonna just like tear my heart open for you. And then you're like, oh, wow, that was great. And I'm like, oh shit, did I do it wrong? And then we both hit the threshold, whether it's you sharing or me sharing, right? I'm like, oh, that was my intimacy threshold. Now I'm scared because I've shared this really deep part of me that I might not even have acceptance or love for. And you might not love me there. And then after, and the hangover piece for me is like when there's been multiple days, when you're like hanging out with someone for multiple days, or when there's lots of like emotional stuff coming up, whether good or bad or, you know, happy, sad, whatever, all the spectrum, whether it's just a really emotional time, that when you come back out of it and into your own sovereign space, there can be a hangover about it. There can be like, oh, like I'm depleted from having so much. It could be so good. And also, you know, like we all know what the emotional hangover is around the intimacy hangover is around, you know, when you're struggling with someone. But even in the place of having such good, sweet, loving, that you're like, oh God. And that can also create a deficit on the other side, right? That can create a deficit, or it can create a push off. Like, oh, I'm too much, or I need more.
Yeah. And I want to say that inevitably different people have different intimacy thresholds. And so whoever's hits their threshold first, then the other one is likely to go into, what did I do? What's it too wrong? Are they going to abandon me? And and of course, so often people that are avoidant are attracted to people who are
Mm,
anxious,
intimacy.
talking about attachment style. And so the moment the avoidant hits the intimacy threshold, the anxious one starts to get anxious, starts maybe getting graspy, or at least the other one experiences it as graspy. Then they pull back even further. Sound familiar? Yeah. And so it's really important, I think, for people to talk about their intimacy threshold even before they get deeply intimate, so that they can notice, hey, you know what? I'm hitting my intimacy threshold. It's not personal. I loved last night. I loved being that close. And my ego is freaking out. And it's, you didn't do anything wrong. It's my ego. And by the way, boys and girls, it is the ego, because our ego does not care about anybody else. Our ego wants to protect us. So it's like after we get really close, really emotionally intimate, the ego's like, hey, we agreed we're not going to do that anymore. Remember the last time you got so hurt and we decided together, I will never trust another woman. I will never open my heart like that again. We made an agreement. It's kind of like that.
Or even like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose my sovereignty or my freedom or my choice. And that's a big one too. You know, it's, I really just want to say that the ego is really important. Our identity, personality, and ego are all three aspects of human existence that have to be in here to live. This is there's animated spaces here for this whole thing. And it's, you can't deny any of those pieces, or we're gonna have lots of therapy. so so yeah, I mean it's acknowledging that. And Scott, to be able to say, I am hitting my intimacy threshold takes a level of self-awareness and reflection that many people don't have, or haven't cultivated. I mean, I have it because I've taken years of trainings with you and years of therapy and years of other things that I can sit back and reflect like, oh, what happens before the explosion happens? Oh, I get scared. Oh, did I get scared? Oh, I mean, it takes some time to unravel it back. And that's either people are really interested in doing it or they're not. So to move through an intimacy threshold,
I'm
to
so glad.
acknowledge it is, yeah, go ahead.
I'm so excited because I want to jump in here. Um, what's also so painful is that oftentimes, if someone is unconscious about the intimacy threshold, it shows up in finding something wrong. So let's say I don't really understand about my intimacy threshold, and I've gotten really deep and intimate with Trish, and now I'm freaking out. My ego's scared. I'll find something wrong with Trish, and I'll pick at it. Right? It's like, that thing that snoring thing, or that, and it's when we're less mature, that's how the intimacy threshold shows up. We start picking at what's wrong with the other person.
Yep.
And so don't do that, because it's really hurtful. It's like, if you can just do the self-reflection she just described and realize, oh wow, it's really not about her snoring or about the way she ate breakfast. It's about, I'm scared because we got really, really close last night, or we're getting really, really close. You know.
I just kind of want to take a step back a little bit in that, just thinking about, I'm looking at my notes, taking notes. Just taking it back about how how to self-source in these times when you're really craving intimacy, how to reach out and get your needs met, at least some, with this weird new life that I mean, this is normal. Like, I have a friendship with Scott and it's 100% online. Like, I have met him in multiple, like, I don't know, 3 times in this whole year. And so this is what, how do I get my intimacy needs met with Scott? Like, how do I do that? And so that takes a level of, if we can't drop in physically, that takes a level of being brave and courageous enough to be intimate on a personal, like emotional level. That's how we're all connecting right now. So it's it's tracking and being really aware. So to get my needs met, it would be to being really honest, like, hey, I'm feeling really lonely. And Scott, I would love to, can we watch a movie on Zoom sometime together? Can you bring your dog and can I have a glass of wine? You know, like the way that we're meeting our needs has shifted in the world. And so it takes a level of reflection to actually ask for and make powerful requests. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, and it's, each and every one of us has our own unique challenge with all this stuff. So I just want to say that, we each have our own unique thing. We each have our own unique what we have enough of and what we don't have enough of, or what we have too much of. And that's kind of the whole point of tonight's show, is when it comes to intimacy, what are you craving? What are you longing for? And where are you hitting the wall? Because it's too much. It might be just too much time in the room and in a house with the person that you don't want to be with 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. So I am going to bring into the chat room two friends. Krishna, who has been on the show before and is one of my dearest friends, long-term friend and client, and someone that I've actually never met. We've texted a little bit. I'm bringing on Doctress Nutopia. She'll have to describe her thing. Oh, look at that background, Krishna. Wow.
Can I come? I'm ready for a vacation.
See, there it is, right? There she is. Hello. And Krishna and Doctress Nutopia, we need for you to unmute yourselves.
Oh my God, you literally really are there. Oh my God, I thought it was just a background. That's so funny.
Krishna, you need to unmute.
Now
Okay.
I'm having some jealousy issues right now, Scott. Maybe this show's taking a huge turn.
Yeah, no, it's definitely that's pretty outrageous. It's pretty incredible. So tell us where you are, Krishna, so we can all fantasize.
So I'm on the Gold Coast in Australia. I'm in a beautiful resort called Palazzo Versace. They tell me it's a 7-star resort. I come here regularly just as a place to go and just be myself and I guess self-source and self-soothe and spend time on the beach and all the kind of intimacy that I'm learning how to enjoy on my own.
Yeah, let's hear about it.
So one thing I've been learning around my journey in relating and relationships, many of you know me, some of you don't, but I've been around Love Coach Academy for 5 years now. And I've had to learn a new relating blueprint. And I laughingly say, I'm a doctor's son who went on to study law and became an attorney. I learned I needed to be smart and I needed to be right. So you can imagine what all my relationships were like. So
no intimacy there. You didn't ever have to be vulnerable, did you? You never had to be like bleedy and teary. You won all the time.
Here's the thing. I was looking outside myself to bring all those parts to the table that I didn't have.
Yeah.
But then when we start talking things like our 12 adjustments, it's like, oh, I was going into judgment. I was going into make wrong. Where was I really connecting with the person I was intimate with? Where was I accepting them? Where was I accepting me?
Yeah.
So I've had to learn different ways of relating and different ways of intimacy. So first thing is I've got to love spending time with me. Because if I can't do that, who else is going to spend time with me? Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
And I mean, for the people who also have like physical disabilities and certain needs, like they have those things too, right? I want to just like include that piece in, because I know that some people who watch are like, well, I do have physical needs and I can't just do it all on my own. I can't just self-source everything. So I don't want to like exclude anybody there. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I thought that was an important piece.
Yeah, thank you. And you know what? I want to introduce our other guest. We'll come back to Krishna in a moment. But first time on any of our shows. Hi. Hello there.
Hello?
Now, do I refer to you as Doctress? Doctress Newtopia? How should we refer to you?
Well, I'm actually a doctor of future studies, but a lot of people just call me Newtopia.
Newtopia. Okay. All right. Well, that's good to know. Well, welcome to our show. First time you've been on. And what comes up for you in this conversation that we're having tonight?
People are so isolated, but our whole structure is isolated. You know, we get into cars, we get into, they're alone, we're alone in cars. Most people are riding around alone. And then a lot of people live in houses alone. You know, so our whole society is like built around isolation and privacy. There's not a lot of public space.
Yeah, and especially now with, masks and all the things, like I said before, all the things that have been shut down that we can't do that we used to do. Now, as a doctress of the future, how are we going to do in the future? What's the solution?
Well, for me, how I see it is we need to create different kind of city designs that's based on the commons, that we have public space, that we also have private space. We need this balance between the public and the private. Mm-hmm. Our cities right now do not offer us this, and we're losing a lot of public space. So it's just rearranging, the society so that we can have more intimacy with people, and that people can be more tribal and know each other within the cities.
It seems that so many of the people I know are either creating community. In fact, that's what tomorrow night's show, Saturday Night Live, happens to be about. We're going to have a lot of people that are doing permaculture, creating communities with kind of a common vision where it's like people have their own pods, but then there's common area and a lot of land, water, children, farming, agriculture. That seems to be a vision that a lot of my peer group has. And so kind of opening it up to everybody, to Trish, Krishna, and of course the doctor, Ms. Newtopia. Is that a vision that appeals to you or that you're noticing is common within some of your people? Go ahead, Trish.
Well, I for me, what's really happening is that, okay, there's a couple people are grouping together in this COVID world. We're grouping together in the COVID world. So then they have pods, and as there's certain pods who adhere to different protocols to get their physical and emotional needs met on a tribal level. There's other people who are still quarantining single and solo and finding other ways to get their needs met that way. So there's a larger negotiation happening in the world that to build community looks like building platforms or events that are really engaging and connecting in some emotional aspect. And then there's other places where people are finding pod partners, like people that they can okay, your protocol matches mine and that person's protocol matches mine too. So these are now my friends. We're going to go hiking. We're going to go do these things. And again, I live in California in a place that's still locked down, primarily. The city's pretty locked down. There's not very much open. So this could just be for me. And I know that even in Germany, there's places that are still super locked down. So it's how do you get your own personal touch needs met? And that's something that I'd love to ask Krishna is yes, of course, we all need to be able to source our own needs. And how are you getting your socialization needs met?
Okay, sorry, Trish, you asked, I think, two questions there. One is, how do I get my touch needs met?
Yeah.
Second is, how do I get my socialization needs met? And you know what, to me, they're two different things. Socializing, so I'll answer the socializing first. I guess I practice a different relationship philosophy. I'm not looking to create a codependence where I've got one person who's my twin flame and we do everything together and share everything together. That's not where I'm at on my journey. I would rather create different relationships with different people and have different things in common with them. And they don't all have to be intimate. In fact, it's actually difficult if they're all intimate. But I look to different people to bring different things into my life. And I treasure each one of those relationships separately.
Of course.
So, for example, I have some staff I work with who we collaborate at a head level. We feel we make a difference in what we do. It's intellectually challenging. It meets a certain need of mine, and it's a certain sort of connection. And over a number of years, it actually becomes a caring relationship as well. I have a dance instructor. You know what? I've been learning how to do the kizomba. I don't know if you've heard of the kizomba.
No.
I think it's based from Angola. It's an African style of dance. It's very grounded. It's not an up dance. It's a very down dance. It's very sensual, very connected. What I love about it is I have to develop a very strong lead. So in my work life, yes, I'm a business leader, but you know what? Sometimes we have to be gentle and diplomatic. You know what? On the dance floor, it's not just okay to lead, it is expected. And I'm meant to have a very strong lead, and it doesn't work otherwise.
Right.
And so I'm in close quarters with this amazing, beautiful dance instructor, and she's teaching me how to dance sensuously with a very strong lead. And that relationship is clean.
Yeah.
You know what? I know her name. I don't really know anything about her. She's a beautiful woman with a dancer's body, but I pay her by the hour and she's my dance instructor. And there's no taking in shadow because I'm not relying on one person to show up with all my needs. I am my own primary relationship. Or, my soul says this body is its soulmate. And so then any other connections I have, I approach them with an open heart. I'm actually not looking to take as in the way I might have previously. I'm looking to make sure the exchange is fair for the other person. My dance instructor, she loves dancing and she's doing it for money. She's a professional instructor. So that's the exchange. I show up, I do my work, I get better. I'm there for the right reasons. And she keeps coming back and teaches me more. So I find I create more and more and more relationships in my life, and each scope of each relationship becomes narrower.
Oh, I have so much envy. I've been wanting to have a dance instructor. Like I've been seeking that out recently, and it doesn't fit into my COVID protocol, into the bubble that I belong to. So I'm like, oh, oh, so you get a certain level of touch there too, right?
I get a lot of touch in that one. Yeah.
Oh.
To the point where I would like this dance it's in close quarters, and it took me some adjusting. I was scared to be that close to her and push her around, and it's like, actually no, Kristen, that's what you've got to do.
Wow.
So I'm curious how Scott and Newtopia are getting their socialization and needs met as well. Their touch needs met.
Newtopia?
Touch needs. I'll touch plants. That's a good one to touch. But really, for me, it's more like the emotional touching. And I am very emotionally touched by that we got Biden as president. I think that's touching that the American people were able to vote out Trump and have our democracy survive. As broken as it is, it's better than a fascist government. So that touches my heart a lot. And all these young people that are struggling to create a climate just world and save our environment, that touches my heart. And with the Zoom, so many people are talking about great ideas. That touches me deeply. And I don't know if we could have gotten to this level of conversation without Zoom.
Hmm.
I think what you have done in Love Coach Academy, bringing these issues up and talking about love on this level, very, very important.
Hmm.
You know, that's touching. You've touched me all these months with this show,
Hmm.
you know, and I think it can grow and be deeper and resolve so many of our problems that we face. So I think we're just touching each other in a different way now.
Hmm. Wow. Thank you so much. I mean, you kind of just made my night. I go to gallery view. We can see Trish doing her applause. Thank you. You know, I mean, that's certainly what's happened for me. It's like I've become a digital guy and I'm having contact all day long. I mean, I'm not lacking in connection with people. I'm just lacking in physical connection, but I'm in digital connection all day long. And, you know, thank you for what you said, because we're really trying, you know, Trish and I and my partner, Deborah Giusti, that I do Saturday Night Alive with, we work our little butts off, you know, to get these shows done every week. And every show I'm proud of, and every show is like, oh God, I'm so grateful for that show. Um, and because we do want to get these messages out to people, and we do want to give a voice to people that don't always get a voice, or you know. So thank you for what you said. I really appreciate that very much. Trish, you're muted.
I mute myself when I screw around in the background because I know that if I'm playing the video, it's gonna just like, yeah, it's gonna go crazy. But I was like, oh my God, you said you love to touch plants, and I was like, I actually keep a plant right by my desk that I do this with a lot.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, and then the emotional touching, yes, oh, so good. And you know, for all of you who are watching and who are maybe feeling the craving to be more physically intimate, things are going to change soon. It's going to be okay. Like, you can reach out to us. We're still here. Reach out to your friends. Like, things are unfolding, and it's happening quickly. So keep your head up. Like, just because I know that there's a lot of people out there. Like, I've been hearing people. I work with people who are really struggling, who want touch, and the Zoom isn't enough for them. And
You know,
that's
I
real.
want to acknowledge for a moment teenagers. I've
Oh,
got a lot of clients who are teenagers and high school prom, you know, and so much of a teenager's life is hanging out with their friends. It's a family I'm working with right now, and it's really hard because it's like a Romeo and Juliet version with COVID as the bad guy, because the two families are really worried about the two kids getting, and these two kids, they're really innocent. All they've done is hold hands and they've kissed twice. So they're both like 16, you know, I mean, but they're like really innocent. And even that, the parents are like all upset and don't want them to get together because they're afraid of COVID. And oh my gosh, it's just like so unnatural, especially for teenagers. So I just want to acknowledge that element of our culture, that element of our society that's really paying a price right now for not being able to have just normal connection, you know?
gosh, I just want to bring up the parents too. Your kids with like people with children who have like run around needs. Are you guys okay out there? Like, how are you doing? Are you all right? Do you need like, what do you need? Because I'm also hearing my friends too say things like, my child isn't getting enough socialization. They're always on Zoom. They don't run around as often
They're not
because they're not,
outside.
you know,
They're
I mean,
not
what are they
in
going to do? Play ball with themselves, you know, like, and parents are working double time to keep rent and things like, I mean, it's kind of crazy.
yeah.
So I'm curious if you guys are parents or you have teenagers, again, type in what you're doing to honor yourselves and getting your needs for connection and intimacy met.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear
Krishna, you have 2 boys, so this would be a
do.
good segue for you to talk about that.
So I'm a divorced dad. I've got 2 kids and they're with me full time. So one of the things I've learned is it's so important for me to nurture myself, because unless I give to myself first, it gets in the way of me being present for the boys. So that's the first thing I'd start with. Nurture myself, get up half an hour early, have some rituals that are mine. And look, I've learned to get my needs met in different ways. Just awareness when I'm breathing in, feel the connection of the breath with my body. When I'm walking or when I'm doing exercise, I'm feeling the blood go through my muscles. Those kind of relationships are where I start. And then I create similar relationships with my children. We bounce on the trampoline together. We play the I am game. We start with the alphabet. I am amazing, I'm beautiful, I'm bold, I'm courage, and the list goes on. And we do that for 10 or 15 minutes every morning. And my wish is for my children to learn that everything they want in their life is actually inside of them. And to show up to relate with their cup full. I don't want my children to grow up believing that love is like a chocolate cake and there's only so much to go around and you only get a piece if you're worthy and if you deserve it and if you've been good. It's abundant and it's within them. And they can radiate it as much as they want.
That's so beautiful, Krishna. There's so many people in the world who don't get to raise their children in that way, or even be able to understand that it is self-sourcing that's the necessary part. And with all of the things that we're talking about within intimacy, within your cravings, within your thresholds and your hangovers, that it is coming back to self-sourcing and meeting your own needs. It comes back to the self-love. It comes back to making self-honoring choices and being kind, because of course we all know that when you build compassion for self, that you build compassion for others, right? So,
Can I say something about the Romeo and Juliet?
Yes, please.
Perhaps we are at a moment in time where having more children really doesn't matter. And so COVID is really actually helping us to understand this crisis of all crises, the mother of crisis. And so this separation is so that we can have a union in a different way, so that we can come together with more complexity and freedom than we've ever had before.
reflect that.
Yeah.
Coming together with complexity and freedom. So beautiful, Nutopia. Like I really love what you're bringing this evening. It's a very different view than us other 3, and I love that you're so you think so globally. I love that. Thank you for bringing that thought
Yeah,
in. Ponder that.
Yeah, really wonderful to have you with us. And I had a wonderful conversation with Andrew Harvey. I've been actually having several conversations with him because we're going to be doing some work together. And, we were both talking about how COVID really is a remarkably gentle teacher, considering what was happening on the planet and what we needed. We were heading as a species for a cliff at 70 miles an hour. And COVID is slowing us down. It has really slowed us down. And it's, of course, it's the people who have died, the people that are sick, the economic challenges. I'm not putting a sugarcoat fairy dust on a very difficult thing, but considering where humanity was headed and that we needed to slow down in a dramatic way, it's pretty effective. And I like that it's also not a war between countries. Everybody, the whole human race, we all are in the same pickle. We're all in the same similar situation of, wow, am I going to get it? Am I going to take a vaccine? Who do I know that, it's like, so I agree. I think that it's hard and we have to have empathy for all the people that are challenged by it, but there probably on some level is a lot of good things coming out of the challenges of COVID. And so I appreciate Newtopia bringing that up for us. Thank you. Who's next?
Well, do we want to stay in alignment with what we wanted to talk about tonight?
Okay, that's a good idea.
Do you want to go out?
I'd like to talk about intimacy and boundaries in this COVID environment. So what I'm learning in pulling apart my patterns and just observing other people's patterns is so often we get caught in this paradigm. Well, if I do this, then they will give us that. And we invest so much in a relationship to get this intimacy we all crave. Let me be her rescuer. Let me be responsible for money for us. Let me be responsible for her emotional well-being. Let me do this, and then I will get the intimacy I crave. Well, I'm not saying everyone does that, but it's a really common paradigm, and it's one that I did for such a long time. And so I've had to make a list of boundaries I will keep with somebody. So these are my boundaries. And what I've learned is I'm willing to contribute and add value, but I won't be responsible for another person's emotional well-being or her day-to-day happiness. I won't be responsible for her sexual fulfillment. Happy to contribute to it, would love to be a part of it, but actually, it's not on me. Each person has to take a certain amount of responsibility for their own feelings, for their own well-being. I won't take responsibility for someone else's social life and relationships. She can have her own friends. I'll have mine, and maybe we'll have some in common. And with that whole makeup, I'm no longer giving to get. I'm actually in a place where I can just be present with. And so when we start talking about intimacy, actually we're just being present.
Seems like to me what we need, though, at least for me, a movement. I want to be part of a great cosmic movement to bring us back to the source, so that we have the source that we can work with to fix our problems. And that's really the kind of intimacy I'm interested in, is more connection with the planet, connection with each other in a way that allows us to do great things. Like feed everybody on the planet or build shelter. Most of the people in the world don't even have adequate shelter. A lot of people do not have sanitation. How do we think that we're going to be able to fight COVID if the majority of people in the world can't even wash their hands? It's that kind of intimacy. And this kind of intimacy gives us peak moments. It's like an orgasm. It's a massgasm. So we're all connected. No one has to feel alone. We're all part of this massgasm. That to me is like the ultimate intimacy that we can do in this form. And we haven't done it yet.
Thank you. Thank you. This is, and those of you who've watched my shows, you've seen me say this many times, that I do believe that we are all cells in this incredible new butterfly that's emerging from the old paradigm, the dying caterpillar representing the old paradigm. And each and every one of us has a role to play. Every cell in our body has a function, whether it's a liver cell or an eye cell or a nose or whatever it is. And I think that, you know, all the great philosophers talk about that, you know, talking about the eternal beloved, you know, and we are coming to understand on many levels the oneness of all things, our highest form of science teaching us the unified field, obviously spiritual teachers teaching us the oneness of all things, and the maskgasm as Neutropia just gave us, but you know, all of us sharing in this common challenge. So yeah, thank you for that perspective. By the way, I need to make tonight a short show. To be really honest, I've been under the weather today. I've been working from bed most of the night, and I just was reminded that I've got a whole thing I've got to do for Saturday Night Live before I go to bed tonight, and I haven't had dinner yet. So I apologize, but it's going to be a shorter straight talk. But I definitely want to give everybody a chance to share another thought or two. And Krishna had brought up how to manage kind of, you know, connection in COVID guidelines. And I just want to say Trish has done a lot of work on that. I mean, Trish, I learned a lot from you about kind of how to handle that. So I'm going to put the spotlight on Trish for a moment to talk about kind of that, just some of the considerations that you're working with and dealing with and have learned.
Well, I've learned that consent and boundary conversations and polyamorous conversations work in the COVID realm, like about tracking everyone and being really like thinking about not just oneself or one's other people, including your home environment, but having an external conversation about how it impact about people's impact on other people. But on an other note, I've been really teaching a lot of classes on how to communicate better with your friends, how to work through, you know, how to build communities. There's online communities that are really fun and beautiful, and single, sovereign, secure, sovereign, and single is hosting multiple events. This is my singles group that I run that really allows for people to upgrade their lives and their, you know, their skills in community. But we're throwing 2 events, one for the East Coast and one for the West Coast of the US, to offer people connection. It's a speed relating, and I can drop the link in a little bit, but speed relating for East Coast and West Coasters, 2 separate events to give you an opportunity to meet people on your side of the country. Not necessarily for dating, can be for dating, people are there for dating, but it's there to just, you know, on a Tuesday or Thursday night to have fun and to connect and to really share intimate thoughts and feelings. And believe me, I definitely bring up a ton of random deep questions if you know me at all. So thanks, Scott, for giving me that opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Trish. Thank you. All right, final thoughts. Krishna, what are your final thoughts on tonight's topic?
So when we talk about intimacy, it's actually a feeling we want to feel within ourselves. So we're looking outside ourselves for a feeling. If we're looking for a feeling, we can generate that within us. And I've had a beautiful journey of actually finding all those feelings that are external and bringing them inside. Do that, the quality of intimacy everywhere changes, and it works in this environment.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Neutropia, it's been wonderful to have you on the show. And please come back again. What are some of or a final thought you want to share?
I would say that, at least for me, I've written poetry most of my adult life. And I think I'm looking for a new narrative, you know, a new balance, whether it's internally or whether it's with the world and the cosmos. So to me, the intimacy is the new poetic narrative.
Beautiful. Intimacy, the new poetic narrative. May we find it, and perhaps you will lead us in that direction, dear friend. Yeah.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, please come back. Please come back.
Thank you.
Trish, your final thought?
My final thought, there was so much shared tonight. Just to wrap up all of it, because that's what I love to do, is we started this show on sharing intimacy and what it looks like when we're craving it, when we hit a threshold, and when we have a hangover. And throughout the show, it really does boil down to, well, self-sourcing, but also building deeper community and thinking about ways to really be in it together. And I love how each person had their own drive for that, and that's really sticking with me and touching me. I'd like to also just remind people that there's Scott, you have a really amazing thing that's dropping next week that I think you should talk about for a moment.
Oh,
Talking about intimacy and
yeah.
connection and building community with a bunch of really special coaches and people. So
All right. Well, you know what? Thank you. I was actually getting all prepared to promote Saturday Night Alive. So let me do that first. And then
Okay.
I've got to find my poster that I just printed. Here we go. So give me a second. All right. So I'm going to promote two things. First off, tomorrow night's Saturday Night Alive is all about a world in transition, building resilient communities and hearts. And it's going to be very much about community living. Dr. Snootropia, definitely, I look forward to you watching, and I think you'll be curious to get your reactions. We have a lot of wonderful speakers, including Lynn Twist, who wrote The Soul of Money and is one of the founders of the Pachamama Alliance, which is my favorite nonprofit organization. I did a beautiful 15-minute interview with Ayla Nerio, a really amazing musician, and quite popular. And she's spent all of COVID just farming on her own farm, living with 8 other people. And we've got several experts that are like experts in the permaculture field. And then we're going to introduce you to Jerry Anderson and the Mystic Monastery. And the Mystic Monastery is a brand new 10,000 acre incredible place in Puerto Rico. And he is looking for people who want to come and live on the land and work with him and his team. So that's tomorrow night. Now, what Trish was reminding me to talk about, and I do appreciate that, is we are launching a new series next Saturday called Masterclasses for Mastering All Relationships. And it's each of us is going to teach one class. And these are 9 of our senior and master love coaches from Love Coach Academy. And every Saturday at 10 o'clock in the morning Pacific time. And it's really kind of like the most important things we all need to know for any relationships, not just romantic relationships, but for our families, our roommates, our workmates, friends, lovers, all relationships. So if you're interested in knowing more about that, maybe send me a private message on Facebook, and I will get you more details. And Trish has been working really hard on that. So I really just want to acknowledge my partner, my teaching partner, Trish. Thank you so much for all the work you've done to make that happen. And I want to thank all the Love Coach Academy people that are participating and making it work. I apologize for kind of punking out a little bit tonight, but I am grateful to Krishna and Dr. Snootopia for joining us. Trish, you know I love you. Thank you everybody for watching. Please do share this out with people and come join us tomorrow night for Saturday Night Alive, 6 o'clock.